question is, how do we build this coalition? How would you see that happening?
I certainly think, and I know this is kind of an answer you hear a lot on the left, but I think it has to be around working class issues. And, you know, if you can coalesce around some of the issues that I mentioned earlier, Medicare for all, tuition-free college, raising the minimum wage, housing reform, criminal justice reform, federal job guarantee, which we talk a lot about with MMT, those are issues that would substantially improve the lives of poor and working class Americans. And if you can center your message around those. Now, again, I don't want to demean or diminish the importance of the social issues, but those are the ones where the demagoguery happens. That's where we're divided on, is those social issues. And that's, again, very, very coordinated and very intentional. And so I think any coalition that we can form to start to change things for the better, it has to center around the economics.
We always say that the core is labor. The core is labor. And we're seeing it all over the country. We are seeing it. It doesn't get the coverage it should get because we know why. But we are seeing it. And I do think that that's the key thing, because right now we don't have a labor party. And the more that people, and we do fight within the party, because in Florida and Broward, we don't have a choice. That's the menu. It is what it is. So our goal is to keep pointing out that they're not a labor party. And if they want to win, they need to be a labor party. And that's really kind of where I feel like what we're doing. And
I do think in terms of if you want to look at one specific area where Bernie absolutely would have been better, if not great, is on labor. That's where his greatest impact as president would have been felt, because he would have saw to it that the current massive strike, ladies and gentlemen, which may actually happen right before Thanksgiving. So get ready for that if you have any intention of getting, holiday gifts and stuff. There's going to be a railroad strike in this country. It's going to happen. And if Bernie was president, I think he would have saw to it to make sure that the proper negotiation took place, because Biden is such a borderline failure. And he is. The fact that he claimed that what he did with the railroad strike was settle the issue. No, he didn't settle it. In fact, he made it worse because he pissed off the railroad workers. If there was even a halfway decent offer, they might have taken it and come back again a couple of years later. But instead, he fully decided to go along with the corporate oligarchs. And now they're going to ensure that he's a one-term president, which I thought was going to happen anyway. But now they're going to seal it when they come. They're going to seal it now when they strike. And we really need to, like you said, it has to be an economic populist uprising from the left.
From the left.
Yes.
It can't be from the right.
Yeah. And like the other thing is, I think the media is also very important in this, because we see this around the world. It's not just in the United States. When you have a strike like that, like listen, I stand fully in solidarity with the Starbucks workers, the Amazon workers, the coal workers, et cetera, right? But when you hit the supply chain the way that the railroad strike is going to, the media is going to demonize you like we have not seen before. We saw this happen in the UK just very recently. The media is going to come out in full force, blaming the workers for, your goods aren't here on time. There's further inflation from supply side issues. Like, they're going to demonize the workers for those issues, when very obviously, as you guys just pointed out, it's the Warren Buffetts of the world, and it's Joe Biden siding with the Warren Buffetts of the world that is the cause of that issue. And the other thing is, this one has really stunned me, because this isn't just your run of the mill. You don't pay us nearly enough, and you know what I mean. Our benefits package is shit. This is like, we can't take a single sick day without risking getting fired or penalized. I mean, this is so beyond absurd. And I've made this point on my show a few times, but this should be like, people should consider this like airline pilots. Do you want your airline pilot exhausted and working multiple days in a row, long shifts? And trains are dangerous. Like, we see the derailings and things happen all the time that kill people. Do you really want someone running down the rails with a bunch of fossil fuels on board, derailing and blowing up your neighborhood? I mean, like, we're not treating this like the safety issue that it is. It's dehumanizing to the rail workers to say that this was some sort of compromise or deal. I in every single way, this has been absolutely astounding. And I can guarantee you the media is going to come down on exactly the wrong side of this. And that's something that independent media folks have to be ready for too, because we're going to have to combat that.
Yeah, well, overall, they just basically don't cover it. Like they don't talk about it, and they certainly don't cover it from the worker perspective. They might cover it from what's going on with the Biden administration, like the political side of it. They'll show but they'll always make them seem like they're getting somewhere when they're not. And they don't cover the underlying issue. And people don't realize that then they will do that. But it isn't about money. I mean, I'm sure there's money issues too, but this is about their working conditions, and they're really abhorrent. We had Max Alvarez on.
Max is wonderful.
Yeah, Max is awesome. He actually has a new book out, just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
And I just got it in the mail, and I'm going to read that. But anyway, so he was on with, what was her name? I forget, the other journalist.
Mel Buer.
Mel Buer.
Yeah.
And they were talking about this, and people don't understand that this is going to happen. And when they talk about, oh, he's coming to an agreement with the union. No, he might be coming to an agreement with a railroad union. People don't understand. This is a lot more than one union. There's like 12.
Yep.
So
and a number of them have already voted against this agreement. So this is going to happen. The only question is to what extent and how many of those unions reject this deal.
Well, I just know how can we support them? That's what we need to figure out. Like, how can we support that effort? Because they should go out. They should.
And maybe, they may be more keen about this than,
now you gotta put your vest on.
Okay. I gotta cut you off quickly and shout out Eric Kessner for those absolutely fantastic vests. Eric's out here in Washington State, and he does a lot of great activism and organizing. Shout out to Eric if you happen to see this. Those vests are fantastic.
Anyway, I was feeling inspired. We're talking about, if the railroad workers go out and other people follow suit. I would also like to point out, if Bernie were president, I think Amazon would have been able to organize in Bessemer and in Albany. I think that a lot of these things
I agree.
a lot smoother.
And this, again, lends to another big problem. And one of the reasons why Biden is a failure, and as much as people don't recognize it, he is allowing the union busting, and it's going on everywhere. They're doing everything to stop this. In fact, friend of the show, personal friend, Jordan Chariton of Status Quo, was up in Albany covering more union busting that Bezos was having Amazon do to their workers who were attempting to unionize up there as well. This is a colossal problem happening everywhere. I just think that Howard Schultz doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and that's why Starbucks is actually
and they're smaller. Look, that's your apples and oranges.
Yeah, no,
it's different, and they're also their shops are smaller. It's a lot easier to coordinate 30 people than it is.
But the other thing is, I mean, Starbucks, like, they've been very successful in terms of voting for these unions, but Starbucks is still, they're refusing to negotiate. They are firing workers illegally. They are closing down stores out of retaliation. And there has not been nearly enough pushback from the NLRB on this. I give the NLRB credit for filing the complaints to start with. This is one area where I guess I forget her name, but some Bernie advisor was actually put on, in the Labor Department, and that apparently has caused some of these complaints to come through in ways that they wouldn't have in previous administrations. But those complaints still do have to go through the court. I've had a handful of Starbucks workers on my show. A couple of them were illegally fired, and they are still waiting for court dates here coming up in December to try to get their job back and get back pay. So Starbucks is very much pushing back, despite the fact that the votes themselves have been successful. That's only the first part of the process, right? Then there's the negotiation part, and there's all the union busting tactics that come after the vote actually takes place. So this, I totally agree. If Bernie were in office like this, I have complaints about Bernie where I think he's been a little too weak, or I don't, I can complain about Bernie in certain ways. This is one where I really do think if he were in office, we would have seen a very different result for Starbucks workers, Amazon workers, the striking coal workers that have been on strike for months already. Like the railroad negotiations would have gone very differently. I do think that would have been, a much better situation under a Bernie presidency.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.